today we're all fascinated with our discussions about our history and looking back and trying to find out the things that we did imperfectly and the injustices of previous generations. And it's really important to go through that exercise because not only is it healing and we bring justice to those who have suffered injustice, it's also important because it creates a whole new platform of respect for one another so that we can see one another in the proper context. If there were failures on a superficial level or some problem, we can look back in the context and say, it's not the person, it's the situation. And then it allows us to look at one another as equal moral characters and say, you know what? I want to make the situation better for my brother and sister in any other part of Canada or any other community, and give them the same opportunities I had, because of course they're going to be better off, but we all know Canada will be better off, because in today's world, we need everybody firing on full cylinders to make the most of our potential and keep our own relevance and place in space and our prosperity and the peace of our country in this growing and more competitive world. At the same time, when we look back and we think of contributions in history, and we're trying to judge today whether a person made a contribution or not, it's an exercise that we always have to be thoughtful of and always put ourselves in the shoes of the other, like in any other context. And I think a framework that's important is for all of us, and I'll put myself at the top of that. And in the future, hopefully people will be forgiving of my shortcomings, but still say, you know what? He wasn't a perfect person at all. But I remember he did make this one, God willing, they'll say at least one, he made this one contribution. And that they will recognize my contribution like any of us. I had one hit. I did something good. It's valuable. Recognize my contribution. But I'm not asking anybody to worship me. We're not asking, and we shouldn't, worship a person. There's a difference between recognizing a contribution and worshiping a person. And when we see these historic figures, I think we need to look through that lens and say, can we recognize a contribution without worshiping that person? And then it gives us all that level of forgiveness today and tomorrow that we can participate in our society without an expectation that we need to be perfect, because none of us are perfect. Our parents raise us, and our own parents see imperfections in us. Those who are closest to us, those who gave us life, our mothers who gave us birth, they can recognize imperfections in us and still forgive us and try to nurture us and try to recognize when we do something good, and at the same time help guide us if we do something wrong or fall off the path of productivity and prosperity. And I think that's an important lens, with some humility, with some amount of forgiveness, to be completely rigorous in assessing whether there was injustices and where there are things that need to be fixed and need to be rectified. But at the same time, to give our history and those who have made a contribution, including ourselves looking ahead, that contribution can be recognized, and then we can still be able to build on those good ideas, learn from those good ideas, and make them even better and perfect them. And that's why it's important. Looking ahead, we don't need to burn down our history to build our future and to build that best chapter that Canada will hopefully ever see. Sometimes reflecting on these issues, you try, again, like anything in life, as you're trying to think your way through a situation, you try to put yourself in that other person's shoes. And of course, analogies are horrible, and they're never really applicable. You can only kind of guesstimate or try to play a mind game, really anything. So sometimes I think today and I say, what if today, right now, I said, I hate aliens. I can't stand aliens. I never want to see an alien, and it'll be the darkest day in human history if an alien ever comes to this earth, and I want my family and I want my kids and I want no Canadian to ever have contact with an alien. What happens if 50 years from now, aliens come and they're amazing beings? They're extraordinary. They help us reverse climate change. They give us all new fuels. How will people judge me? They'll look back and say, what a horrible person he was. But I hope when they look at this video, if it's still around or whatever, they'll say he had no clue. He never really interacted with it. He never met an alien. So again, it's not a good analogy. It's not really perfect. It's just a mind exercise to try to think about how we can just, if nothing else, open a little space for forgiveness when we look back on history and say, can we keep the good, build on that, identify, rectify, and bring justice to those who have suffered injustice, and try to find that best and most perfect version of Canada.